So tell me about yourself.
My name is Hákon. I am a systems administrator. I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm a husband, and in all of these branches I have met the autism spectrum in one way or another. Even as my own person, I suspect that I may be somewhere on that spectrum without ever being diagnosed or anything like that. Why am I here? I'm here primarily because of my daughter, my daughter Saga, who is 3 years old now, currently in kindergarten, and it was observed about a year ago that she was lagging behind in some aspects. She wouldn't play with the children her age. She would only pay attention to children older than her, especially her brother. She was not speaking in the expected manner. She was still mostly babbling, using maybe 1 or 2 word sentences, and she would mimic a lot, and she would try to get by on mimicking. And if she couldn't, she would get visibly upset. But then the lovely ladies at the kindergarten noticed that she might need some help, and then asked us if it was okay, me and my wife, if it was okay to have this checked out. Our immediate response was, of course that's okay. I mean, why wouldn't we want every available option for our children? Which was surprising to me, the reaction that we got for that reaction, because most people thought, wait, you're not upset about this? Like, why wouldn't you be upset about this? And like, why would I be? My children are my children. They're not going to be transfigured by some diagnosis. They're still my children. I still love them. Doesn't change them in any way. What getting help means is that I have a better understanding of my children. I can better appropriate my behavior so that their feelings are better met, they're better understood.
Then you discovered that maybe your mother could be on the autistic spectrum.
Yeah. Throughout the years, my mother has had some troubles with her professional life, like in communicating with coworkers or management or such. Like, she's sometimes had like rough communication with them, and just after I saw the film, Seeing the Unseen, things started falling into place. Like the other women who told of their own experiences, like my mother, every time she takes up something on her own, she usually does it really well. But then she goes into the workplace, and sometimes, not always, but sometimes communications are not the best. Of course, that doesn't have to be like verbal communication. It's all communication. I mean, non-verbal communication is the majority of our communications.
Have you discussed this with her? That
yes.
possibly this
yes.
And how was her reaction?
Immediately after the film, like with tears in my eyes, because like I was just, I felt ruined almost. Like after coming out of that film, like so many things. I mean, I'm 35 now, and so many things came to light. So many pieces of the puzzles just fell into place, and I was just devastated that I had never considered that to be an option until then. And especially in regards to the relationship I have with my mother. Like suddenly, so many things fell into place, and I could understand so many things. So I immediately told her, like, you need to see this movie. You have to see it. And please do it as soon as you can, because we need to talk. at first she was kind of hesitant, like she because her generation was brought up with the notion that being autistic was like a complete disability, not just like working on a different radio frequency. And slowly she started making sense of everything that I was saying. Like she mentioned to me that at the age of 15, all of her thinking started going on in English for some reason. Like she started, it became easier to think that way. Whenever she needs to express her emotions, she goes into English because it's somehow easier to remove yourself from the native language into a different language, and then somehow you can express that way. I have no explanation why, but then she also started thinking like all of her communications with other people like my father, and like things started making sense.
Can you imagine if she would have her diagnosis sooner, what that would have done for her?
I don't know. Maybe she could have. Like one of her fears right now is that whether she goes into the whole process of getting the diagnosis and like knowing like yes, you are on the autistic spectrum, or if she goes in and finds out no, that terrifies her. Like what if the answer is no and I'm just weird?
Okay.
That's what she thinks.
Okay.
Like and I can understand that.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't want to find out like all of these pieces are suddenly fitting and then no, that's not it.
Oh.
That's a scary thought. Like what if I'm just abnormal and there's no explanation? But of course she was in her upbringing, I mean, being autistic was being disabled.
Yeah.
So it's still a hurdle to get through. But after we when I told her that my daughter was pre-diagnosed with autism on the autism spectrum, she was all for it, like completely supportive, as she has been with everything that regards her children and mine.
Did you know anything about autism?
Very little. I mean, just what like the public usually talks about. I've met some of the you could say like the obvious cases. I hope that's okay to say. The kind of people who really need all the help they can get, and they were always lovely people, and for some reason every time I met one they would be drawn to me, which is interesting to me because just the other day I noticed they had done a study about how autistic people or on the spectrum find it easier to communicate in between themselves rather than with people who are just off that spectrum scale. So that kind of clicked for me, like that kind of makes sense, how I am easier able to communicate with people who I suspect might be on the spectrum or not. My current, like for example, my current profession as a systems administrator, my job title is DevOps engineer. DevOps is divided into development and operations. These two sides need to be able to communicate, but they're speaking different languages. It's like, and I'm here in the middle trying to translate the two. It's the same principle with those who are on the spectrum and those who are not. They might be speaking the same words, but they are communicating in different languages almost, like different radio frequencies. So sometimes there needs to be an intermediary to interpret, which I've often found myself doing. And then sometimes people just need to slightly adjust, take more time to make sure the message is received and in the way intended. Now, this ability for women to hide their spectrum, let's say, it's something that I can see in my 3-year-old daughter. I mean, she's 3. She has not mastered the way to communicate, but she innately knows how to hide her inability to make everything clear. She she tries to mimic to reach some kind of rapport with other people. When she goes to some stranger, she is all social, like she has no fear about coming into a room full of strange people and talking to everyone, making everyone feel that she's just a child, a normal child. I mean, every parent wants the best for their child, I imagine. So immediately when help was offered, we just immediately said yes. Speaking of, when we were offered help, people were surprised at our reaction, that we just readily accepted it. Like, aren't you surprised? Aren't you shocked that she's like this? No. She didn't change. She is the exact same child we always knew. If some other person other than us, like me and my wife, can help, fantastic. And she's been receiving help now for just about a year. And there have been leaps and bounds in the way she's evolved as a person, like going from like having troubles with so many things to having much more ease with a lot of things. She's communicating a lot better. She feels better, obviously, like very obviously, because she feels so much better knowing that her words are being heard and understood. That's such a relief for me. Like, I can talk with her and she knows what I'm saying, and then she can talk back, and then I know what she's saying. Like, I can tell her, like, hey, go get a glass of water, and she just does. She doesn't need help. She can do it on her own. And knowing that she can do it on her own is such a relief.
What are your message to parents that are getting maybe this kind of information from the kindergarten, that there is something?
Always say yes. I mean, what's the absolute worst that can happen? The absolute worst that can happen is that, I don't know, they get help. I mean, how is that bad? They're still your child. Then nothing has changed in them. All you have to do is adjust your own perspective. It's helped me tremendously to know that I don't compare her to anyone. I shouldn't, and I don't. Because, like, I know she is her own person, and she is working with her own strengths and things that she needs to get improved. No one should ever say no to help. Just accept that there's something a little bit different, but that doesn't mean bad. They're just a different kind of awesome. I mean,
a different kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Flott logo. Thank you, Hákon.